Welcome back to another episode of The Sportsmen. We got no Mikey V. He's on vacation this week, but we do have Mr. Joseph Cold Cuts up there. I'm the Big Ticket, and welcome back. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube and on the Instagram. And Joey D, I mean, there's not a whole lot to talk about. We're down a guy.
It feels like we're just like in a bye week here. We're just really trying to put something together here at all angles. And you know what? Good on us, because in the past, this would have absolutely been a week we would have taken off. We would have flown as the crow flies past this thing, and we would not have put anything out. And you know what? We're different. It's a Sportsman now. It's a different podcast.
You make sure it happens. We'll find out real quick if we should have just skipped the week.
We got reviews nothing. Are the absolute all-time low on this episode.
All right, but one thing I do want to... It
feels like we're running it back, man. It's like the old days, man.
That's right. It's me and you. We got a little more heavy lifting. There's not a third guy we can lean on.
Quiet podcast without Mikey V in here giving his opinion. I tell you that much.
Yeah, I was going to ask Jet to hop on with us, but he was in a sour mood this morning. So I was like, I'm not even going to ask him.
So the Jet is doing, I mean, I'm sure we can share this right with the viewers. The Jet is doing a current intermittent fasting, which I've done before. And quite frankly, it does work. It's very successful. But what he's doing is he doesn't eat unless it's between the hours of 2 p.m. and 10 o'clock p.m. Which means that, like, in the morning, you're getting a little bit of a little Riley Jet. And I don't know what time. I think he was saying at 12 o'clock. So at noon, he has his first cup of coffee. He doesn't have anything before then. And that kind of gets the ball rolling. So when you see the Jet these days, pre-noon, pre-coffee, he is an amped up individual, which, by the way, he might have been exceptionally good on this podcast today, because he would have been, for our Who's a Problem section, he probably would have had 15 guys that he would have been able to rattle off, for all intents and purposes. But yeah, we love you, Jet. Always fun when we can get him on.
I'm already working on cup number 3 of coffee, just straight black. I mean, I'm already on 3. It's at 9.
Number 1 here.
Number 1?
How many do you have a day? How many cups of coffee do you average a day?
I used to be a guy who, no joke, I would have anywhere between 12 and 14 cups of coffee.
Holy shit.
Throughout the whole day. And it wouldn't affect me. I could sleep. I could have one at 9 p.m. and I'd still fall asleep at 10. But now I've really tried to cut it back. I just don't need it. And I try to do no more than 3. So I'm on 3 right now.
You're doing more than 3 today.
But talking about consuming, let's, one thing I did want to dive into that I was a little excited to talk to you about. It would have been nice if Mikey V was here due to what he just went through last week. Yeah. But I want to talk about Joey Chestnut and the eating contest. This guy is just cruising now. He used to set records every time he went out there. I think the biggest one he ever had was 76 hot dogs. But no, he's down to 62.
Was it 76? Yeah, he's on cruise control now.
Yeah, 2021, he ate like 76 hot dogs, and every year he would always one-up himself. He'd always get one more in that 10-minute time limit. But now he's just like, fuck it, dude. I can eat 60, cruise on this thing, and still win by 20 fucking hot dogs.
He still has the world record. He doesn't need to break his own.
No, he doesn't need to break his own. But what I did... Well, yeah, you give me your thoughts here first. What do you think about that?
I don't know, man. I was in Vegas. I was talking to a buddy from the Golf Fathers, and he was telling me that he made a boatload of money betting every single hot dog contestant, betting the under. And I thought it was very interesting because you hear about Joey Chestnut, 62 was way under. I think projected the over-under was 72.5 this year. And so, I mean, 10 under. But you don't hear collectively about all the other guys who failed to live up to, like, I guess, their expectation. I think there's a couple things. First, there was like a huge delay. Like, they thought that they were going to maybe have to cancel it at one point because of I think there was like a rain delay, and they didn't know if they're going to do it. Mentally preparing for something like this. And now, Ticket, you've rode along with us when we've done some of our food challenges. It's very daunting. Like, going into it, that, and I'm not comparing what we do on Bob Does Sports food challenges to what these guys are doing by no means, but I'm saying it's like you're aware that you're about to consume a large amount of food, and mentally you're trying to prepare your body for it. So I would imagine people don't think this, and I'm just wondering if you would agree with this or not. But just the fact that they had to delay the event and postpone it and weren't sure if they were even going to get it to do it this year, and then come out rushed last second and fire it out, to me, that makes a lot of sense, because then you're having to like re-hype yourself up after downtime. Like, I'm sure coming out of the gates, these guys were ready to fire. Then it's delayed. I think it was delayed for at least 1 or 2 hours. And then you're sitting downtime. And then you got to amp yourself back up to come back out there and annihilate this stuff. And it's, people think it's a joke, but what these guys are doing is they're pushing their bodies to the limit, like quite literally. So I think that played a huge part in all of these guys underwhelmingly, like, not succeeding. That being said, yes, I do agree. I think that this guy's so much better than the field. Who was the last guy who won? It was
Kobayashi.
Kobayashi. Yeah. Why did I Kimosabe? Oh God. Yeah, I knew it was a K. Kobayashi, but like since then, I mean, this guy Joey Chestnut has absolutely run away with like, I don't really tune in too much, but you see him every single year win. It seems like for the last decade.
Oh, I tune in every year. It's one of the best. Really? It's one of the best events. I used to watch with my dad all the year, and I remember the year that Joey Chestnut came in, and it was like Ken Kobayashi fend off this young phenom, Joey Chestnut. And I mean, quite honestly, I haven't seen Kobayashi ever since. I mean, Joey Chestnut just ran away.
He was embarrassed
with the competition. But I'll say this to your point, is that I, like almost a year ago, I did the hot dog eating contest on the Brilliantly Dumb show. And if Bob had delayed me like half an hour, there is something about your mind and your stomach being in, congruity with each other, like in sync, and like you're ready. There is a mental aspect to it. So I can't even imagine, having been delayed an hour. The hot dogs are starting to get cold now. Yeah, it's already cold with the rain. It's like
but not even that. Think about with the rain, like the setup is all wet and you have to change. Like you're not operating at premium. It sounds ridiculous. I know it sounds ridiculous, but these guys were not operating at premium conditions, like where they would probably be really in their element. It'd be like, it's like a rain delay in baseball, then you got to put the tarp out. Then all the guys go back in. Lord knows what they're doing in the locker room, just hanging out. And then, the rain delay ends. You got to just get back in and mentally reinstate yourself so you're ready to go play a game.
Anytime you do anything, you got to be mentally ready. I mean, like, even think when you go to the doctor and they stick the needle in you. Like, imagine if he just fucking stuck it in you, and you got to get ready. He's like, all right, I'm about to do it, and you're like, mentally, you got to be like, okay, I'm fucking ready. And so anything with your body. So imagine when you're pushing your stomach to the limits, and what Mikey V said when he ate that burger the other day. So Mikey V, if you didn't watch, he ate this fucking burger in like 6 minutes and a pound of fries. It was like five patties,
yeah.
And afterwards he was talking about how it was all lodged in this upper region and nothing was getting digested. That's the worst feeling you could possibly ever have. And I can't imagine what. Yeah, so it's just crazy. I mean,
how many hot dogs did you put down when you did your
That's
challenge?
a great question. I think I did 13. I think I did 13.
In what? It was in 12 minutes, like 15 minutes?
Yeah, 12 or 15 minutes. It's tough. I don't know how, dude, 62. I mean, the record is 76. 76 hot dogs.
That's absurd. It's just I did when we did 9 holes and 9 hot dogs, and keep in mind now these were like you saw.
Yeah, you guys had the bread that was crazy.
Brioche buns and big ass like brats. But after doing the 9th one and trying to golf, it was just mentally, it's exhausting. And I think the thing is, physically, like the first few, you're powering through, like mentally you're like, I got this. It's when you get to that like mid-level threshold where it's starting to suck and you're only like halfway of what you're projected to do, and mentally you have to get yourself to accept that point and still keep lodging these things down. That is the worst part, just accepting that and knowing how much further you have to go. I tip my cap to these guys. They're putting their bodies through it. It's to eat even 50 hot dogs is astounding. It's absolutely ridiculous.
So the reason
frankly, I think I'm glad you brought it up, because I wouldn't have talked about it, but
So the
It should
reason
be
I did
discussed.
bring it up, other than what happened, and there's almost nothing else to talk about, is I was reading up on his stats and what he has done. So just 3 months prior to this hot dog eating contest, in April, Chestnut won a Qdoba World Burrito Eating Championship where he
Ah,
consumed 14 and a half burritos in 10 minutes. Just 3 months before the fucking hot dog eating contest. And back in 2021, he ate 16 pounds of pumpkin pie in 8 minutes. I mean, this guy's
that's
sick.
outrageous.
This guy is sick.
This guy is the meaning of gut rot. I mean, this guy's stomach is absolutely taking a beating.
You got to imagine that this has to affect him down the line. I mean, he's got to be looking at something. I'm sure he does all the things to keep his body in shape, but you just can't eat like this and be okay at 60. You just can't.
The crazy thing is, he's a pretty in shape guy.
He is. Yeah.
Like, it's not like if you saw him walking down the street, you'd be like, yeah, that guy probably goes to the gym, you know? You wouldn't think he's eating 8 pounds of fucking pumpkin pie. That's outrageous. We got to move on. Well, I know we're slim pickings, but we got to move on here, Tick.
But it's
We
the same
gotta
thing
move.
with like Christian Bale, though. Like, do you think when he does that thing where he loses 100 pounds or whatever to do a role, and then he puts 100 of muscle back on, do you think we're going to lose this guy at 55? I mean,
Well, look at Matthew McConaughey for that Dallas Buyers Club. The
another
guy
good
looked like he was a freaking stick. Or even Joaquin Phoenix for the Joker role. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, this guy literally, you could see his ribs were like, it was disgusting. And by the way, they say the camera adds 10 pounds, and I stick to that all the time because it does. So imagine this guy was literally inverted. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's something about the body. It's pretty wild, like what you can do. And again, these guys, I think, Ticket, if somebody told you that you had an opportunity to star as a lead role in a movie where you would get paid $15 million, but you had to lose 120 pounds, could you do it
I'm
in
going to
like
be
a
honest
matter of
with
like
you.
4 months?
I'd put all of my efforts towards it. I don't think I could lose 120 pounds. I think I
Like,
could put on 120
or
pounds.
okay, say okay, we won't ask you what you weigh right now, but say like 80 pounds, you had to lose like almost 100 pounds. Because like for me, I'm like in the 230 to 240 range. If I had to lose like 80 pounds to go down to like 150 or like 155, like, bro, could you imagine? That's like a half of me.
I think you could do it, but I think your mind would be so messed up from losing all that weight. There's no way you could even then do the role. So the fact that these guys do
Wow,
that,
but $15 million, Tick?
I know, man. I mean, I think we're sacrificing years off these guys' lives for great performances when we're talking about like fucking Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, Christian Bale's not going to live past 60. There's just
Which
no
movie did
way.
Christian Bale do that for? The Fighter, was it? Or
Well,
he
the
did?
fighter he lost a lot, but there was one where he like played this guy who didn't sleep at all. I forget it was called like Insomniac or something. It was called like I don't know, but his character wasn't sleeping, and you could see it was very similar to the Joker character. You could see his ribs, and he was just like walking around
He
like
also
this.
gained a ton of weight because he played in, what was the movie where he was the vice president?
Oh yeah, Vice. It was
Cheney.
called Vice.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was called Vice. And he was like, he was a bigger guy in that. These guys,
Yeah.
the body morphia, it's wild.
It's
It's absolute.
and then he goes and puts on like 30 pounds of muscle for those Batman movies.
Yeah, it's
He was
wild, man.
jacked. So anyway, we'll move on. But I think there's no possible way those guys live past 60. It's just you can't do that. You can't do that to yourself. But anyway, we had the
Let's hope
MLB.
you're wrong.
I hope so. I mean, they're great actors, but it just doesn't seem right. We had the MLB All-Star Home Run Derby, Vlad Guerrero
Vladdy
Jr.
Guerrero.
Yeah, man, the guy's a specimen, much like his father. Did you watch it at all? Did you pay attention? Do you give a shit?
I actually, okay, here's what I'll say. I didn't watch any of it.
Okay.
But that being said, is the home run derby is fun. It's like the one thing in the MLB All-Star game that is worth watching. And I actually think the MLB has, I think that, when they made the rule that whoever won that Major League Baseball All-Star game would be able to like get the home field advantage in the finals. I think that's so, I really like that, because it means that these guys are actually going to have to play and take it somewhat seriously. Because you watch some of these other All-Star games, the NBA, it's like there's literally no defense. It's like there's 200 points aside, and it's just like it's not a real game. It's not fun to watch. And I would hope that like other leagues would implement something to the effect of what the MLB did and put some kind of importance. And I think I've stated this before, even on the Sportsman, because who's going to watch? Who is going to these All-Star games, buying a ticket and flying down to Seattle to watch the MLB All-Star game, or any All-Star game for that matter? Could you imagine flying down to Hawaii? Well, Hawaii is different because it's an amazing place to be.
Yeah.
But could you imagine going there solely for the purpose of going to the Pro Bowl? Like, I mean,
That's the most useless All-Star game of all time. The Pro Bowl is the worst. It's after the season, right before the Super Bowl. It means nothing. These guys aren't wearing pads. And, I get it. It's the most intense sport, so it's the most likely that someone could get injured. Could you imagine if you're a 49ers organization and George Kittle goes and breaks his femur and he's out for the next year? It's like, so I get it. I think the
problem with the Pro Bowl is because football is such a contact sport. You can't just play football and take that element out. Like, what are you gonna have them play flag football? So this past year, do you remember what they were doing? Like, they were doing golf, they were doing dodgeball. I mean, at
the
that
dodgeball
point,
was crazy.
Remove the fucking All-Star. Like, let these guys have an extra week to relax and enjoy themselves. Their bodies just went through the absolute gauntlet throughout the season. Give these guys an extra week. Who wants to go watch Peyton Manning run a dodgeball camp for these NFL guys? I mean, it's outrageous. I couldn't believe what I was seeing on that.
I appreciated that they saw what that the NHL has the tricks challenges, and MLB's got the home run derby. They were trying to switch it. I appreciate that they tried, but once they did it and watching it, it was like a clown show. It was one of the most ridiculous. So I appreciate that they tried, but
you could still do a skills competition that would be way better. Like the quarterback's trying to throw the ball and get into like the holes, like for like points, or like the running back trying to see who could be the fastest. I mean, you could do different things that would still relate to your sport. Right. Have guys out there playing golf. I mean, I'm sorry. I love golf. Golf is everything to me, but I don't care how well Jalen Ramsey hits a pitching wedge. You know what I mean? Like I don't really give a shit. I'm not there to watch that,
Yeah, I just the Pro Bowl sucks, and it's never going to get better because these guys are never going to want to hurt themselves, and I understand that. But back to the MLB is definitely the best way to do it. I don't know why the NBA can't do something like that. I don't know why they can't make their All-Star game mean more. But yeah, that being said, the NBA All-Star game is probably the best one that there is. I mean,
did you watch the home run derby?
The home run derby? I did. Well, we were doing a podcast last night for Bob to Sports, but I went home and I watched the highlights of it. And yeah, Vlad's just a freak, man. And that's another thing I appreciate. The slam dunk contest, you never get LeBron. You don't get the best guys anymore, at least in baseball. Sometimes, I mean, there are some guys who are nothing players, but you do get the Vlad Guerreros, who is one of the most interesting, fun players to watch doing it, and Pete Alonso, and you get some of these other guys. So at least that they still have the top tier talent performing in those things. But man, baseball's just a tough thing to get involved with these days. I just don't. I like it more than basketball.
Are you not following the season at all? Like,
no, I follow the Phillies pretty vigilantly, but that's about it. I don't follow the league as a whole like I used to.
There's some interesting things going on right now. What the Braves are doing right now in baseball,
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. I actually, I said to a friend of mine, if you literally just took the Braves money line every single game for like the last 2 months, I mean, you would be up so much money, even with the juice that you have to lay, because they go on these. Now, I actually was on the Rays the last game that they took the Braves down, which shockingly enough, but like the Braves go on these 8, 9, 10 game winning streaks, and then they'll lose one, and then they win another 7, 8 in a row. And it's like, they swept the series with the Rays. I mean, this team is unbelievable. And the Rays, by the way, are the best team in the American League.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually following baseball more this year than I have in a long time.
But is it
But it's
because of betting?
just,
Is it like
yes,
because of, so
100%.
that's why you know
If
what's
it
going
didn't,
on?
I could care less. I
Do
I
you
root
not
for the
like the sport at
Yankees.
all? Do you not find enjoyment
No,
of the
I
sport
don't know. Here's the
whatsoever?
thing is I actually do. I do enjoy watching it from time to time, but growing up, I never was really deeply invested in a team. Like I didn't have a team to root for as a home team. Like you had the Phillies growing up, right? Like I didn't, if I had a team that I could root for, like I guess in like the early 90s when the Jays won back-to-back World Series, I cheered for them, but I could count on
So
like
you
two
wouldn't be
hands
like
how
a
many.
Mariners fan, like Seattle's close to Vancouver,
I
right?
like
Wouldn't
Ken Griffey Jr. and Ichiro and
yeah.
Randy Johnson. And yeah, I guess I like the Mariners, but like I just never felt like a connection to them enough that I was like, I got to sit down and watch a Mariners game or a Blue Jays game.
Yeah, yeah,
There was a
fair enough.
span, I will say, in like when I was living in Whistler, and this would have been in like 2014, 2015, when the Jays were really good, when they had Jose Bautista, when they had like Josh Donaldson when he was good, when they had like all these guys, and they were like a perennial team in the American League. And then I think the one year they lost to Kansas City in the playoffs when Kansas City Royals won the World Series, I was watching it a lot. And I
Hmm,
will always say that like baseball in the playoffs is awesome to watch
it
because the
is.
games mean so much. I just think for me, it's really hard to watch just a regular season game. Like for me to watch the Nationals play the Guardians on a regular, like double header at 11 o'clock, I could care less. It's just, I'm not invested into it. I think that's the issue. But baseball in October is amazing, and I
It
love
is.
watching it. It's just a different breed to me, which, and we've discussed this before. I think if you minimize the amount of games played, that's why the NFL is so good. If you lose 3 games or 4 games in a row, you're fighting for a playoff spot. Like you're in jeopardy of losing out on the playoffs. And in baseball, you lose 4 or 5 in a row. It's just like you
It
just
doesn't really
blink and you
matter.
get back in. Yeah, that's the thing that I don't like. I don't like to see also too, like I like to see the players like when they lose, full count, and then all of a sudden, like the guy strikes out and they're like tapping, the pitcher, and everybody's just having a good time. Nobody gives a shit. I don't like that.
Hmm. Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Or do you,
Yeah.
or like I speak in foreign language here?
No, 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 no. I understand. I think that the reason postseason baseball is so interesting to people who aren't, huge fans of baseball is that like every pitch seems to mean something. And you get to watch the mental gymnastics between, okay, I just threw a fastball. Now is he going to expect another fastball or is he going to get a curve? Does he think he's going to get a curve?
Yeah.
And then watching the batter then think like, okay, just got that fastball. I should expect a curve probably somewhere outside. And it's like seeing that, like when you get invested to that degree, it is very, very interesting. But I can understand someone who doesn't like the sport. You just go, you sit at the game and you're just watching it. I can understand how it's fucking boring. But if you get invested, much like if I spent time to get invested in soccer and I actually knew what was going on, I look at the game of soccer and I just see a
No,
bunch of guys
soccer's awesome.
running a marathon. But if I could pay attention to what
No,
was
no,
really
no.
going on between these players and the passes they're making, I understand how it could be a lot more interesting. And the same goes for baseball. But, it's hard to really
Do you
understand the
think
gravity of that until it's postseason.
that I will say the pitch count has really helped speed up the process of the game.
Yep.
I think that was they got it right there. I gotta give the MLB some kudos. They're like trying to do whatever they
They're
can to
trying.
improve the sport as much, but they better start doing some more.
They got a long way to go.
Yeah,
All right, let's move on to. Did you hear? I was actually talking about this with the Jet yesterday. Do you know anything about this Pat Fitzgerald thing at Northwestern?
I heard about it. Listen, hazing is unfortunately a part of has been a part of sports for a long time. Even when I was playing high level hockey and junior hockey, you would hear like horror stories about like what the rookies would have to do,
Mm-hmm.
and like what that entailed. And thankfully now, I mean it's improved. So like it's now like more so like they make the rookies dress up like in wigs and dresses and go to like the movies and be just like, people laugh at them and stuff like that. But like from what I used to hear, like the horror stories in the locker room, it's unfortunate, but that's just, it's been a part of sports for a long time. And thankfully it's changing. I just can't imagine a coach making $50 million in 10 years. Like, at this day and age, with PR being what it is, and with all this stuff that's being, how are you not even aware of this? Like, how are you not? So to me, it's like walking around with like a bucket over your head, like you're the coach of the team. I mean, I don't know, man. I think they made the right play removing the guy, and they're setting, a precedent saying that we're not going to accept this. I mean, essentially, Northwestern is like the Ivy League of like of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
What is it, like $75,000 a year to go to school there? Like, I mean,
it's incredible. Yeah, it's a great school.
I mean, this shit shouldn't be going on.
But that's the thing
field.
is, it's going. So I didn't really even necessarily want to talk about Pat Fitzgerald, although he was a really good coach, and that team's going to suffer because he's gone now. But the hazing happens everywhere, man. It happens even outside of sports. It happens just in fraternities. It happens even if you don't join fraternity. It happens everywhere. There's some sort of male trait deep inside of us that makes us feel like we went through this, so then we got to put you through it, and that proves that you're a man and that you're one of us. And that happens at every campus, everywhere, in every club that you try to join. There's some element of hazing. That being said, if I gotta drink a glass of milk with this guy's pubic hair in it to join the baseball team, I don't need baseball anymore. I'll just get an education. But it has been going on, and I just don't understand how they pick. Like, okay,
well,
let's fucking hammer down on Northwestern.
Serious. Well, no, there had to be some serious shit that came out for them to do this, because I don't think it was disclosed. I mean, they mentioned one instance of these guys having to lay stomach flat on the field eating whole watermelons. I can't imagine that is the extent of what actually really happened. I'm sure there was stuff that was not disclosed. So I'm sure that there was some shit that came out that was just so outrageous that they're like, we can't handle like having this guy be the head of our team and represent what we're doing and what our school's about, knowing that people know what was going on behind the scenes and that was condoned. That's kind of how I took it. I don't know. Now, I agree with you, Tick. I agree. It's like, unfortunately, that's just this male psyche that we have, is that, we want to make sure that this guy's for the team and he's going to be able to go through whatever we put him through because he's willing to put the team first. And that has gotten so misconstrued to the point now where, like the example that you gave is probably something that has happened, or to some, some retrospect, but what the fuck does that have to do with being a contributing component to the success of your team? It's absolutely irrelevant. So I mean, hopefully stuff like this will happen, and then like it'll come to light, and other like schools and shit where it's happening, at least the severity of it will lessen, and it won't be something where it's mentally like disturbing these young athletes, and being something where, some of these guys have, deep, dark secrets that they have to hide and be ashamed of, when all they're trying to do is make a name for themselves and play the sport that they love and be able to be successful and maybe go pro one day, like.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it probably did start somewhere down the line of proving yourself, some sort of team building thing, like making you like you're one of us, and we want to make sure you're one of us, and you got to prove yourself in some kind of way. But it's just evolved into such a Frankenstein where guys are just being dicks now. Guys are just being fucking assholes, and a lot of them it's because they're pissed off at their dad or something happened to them. They're in a bad place now. They got to take it out on the new guys, and it's like, oh man, dude, I had this guy in college. He joined a fraternity. He was a friend of mine until he joined this fraternity. Then you lose him. It's like you lose friends to fraternities. You never see him again. But one of his hazing thing was they starved him. Like he didn't eat all day. And then they locked him in a room overnight, playing the same 3 seconds of a song on a loop all night long with flashing lights in the room too, and they couldn't leave that room for like 9 hours all night long, starved, hungry, the flashing light in their eyes so they can't sleep, and the same 3 seconds of a song blasting. I would not come out of
What
that
was the song?
room. I think it was the Kanye Jay-Z song, N Words in Paris. I think it was like
Oh,
dun, 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 and it was just that over and
oh my
over and
God.
over again.
I would
That
probably
would
be able to sleep through that.
you think you could sleep through that?
I think it
Hungry?
probably could.
You hadn't eaten all day. The lights flash, a strobe light, basically.
I have fallen asleep in some weird spots.
Oh,
I've fallen asleep
man.
at a sporting event before. I feel like I might. I don't know.
I'd be coming
That
out
is
needing a straitjacket. I would lose my fucking mind,
now.
dude.
Now the music, especially that song, that ding ding dun, 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 dun,
Over
ball
and
so
over again.
hard. That song specifically, that would probably drive me nuts. That really would. But like, yeah, I don't know,
Were you
man.
ever hazed when you did hockey? Like, did you ever go through anything like that, or did you get out before any of that shit fell down the line for
There
you?
was a lot of shit where like you're in the locker room and guys take towels and smack your ass or do
Yeah,
stupid shit.
that's just
I never
horseplay.
really, yeah. I mean, it's all part of the culture, I guess. But like, I guess shit like that. I don't know. I was lucky enough that I didn't really ever, have to endure anything crazy. But again, you hear some stories and you're like, oh my God. And I'm not even stuff that I would share on this podcast because we don't need to go to specifics. But
Sure.
Hockey, I would imagine these guys are some of the worst because there's some dark minds in the annals of the locker room of hockey. But I don't know, man. I just think like there's always like, it's like, you could always take something that's fun and good and like wholesome, and there's a couple assholes who ruin it for everybody. There's always, it's like when you're playing at recess, and all these kids are out having fun, and there's that one kid who's just bullying some kid and throwing somebody to the ground. And recess is a wonderful thing, but then you have this one kid who dreads recess every time because he doesn't want to get bullied. So it's always been like that. I think unfortunately, it's always going to be like that. And, I think good kudos to Northwestern for setting a precedent that they're not going to stand for shit like that. I mean, listen, it completely contradicts the motto of the school and like what it stands for and what it's about. I mean, in one go, they're charging $75K for a year of enrollment, and then on the other side, they're hazing in locker rooms, So, anyways, let's move on though. Let's move on.
We always start with nice things, and then there's just a couple dicks who got to fuck it up.
Yeah, that's the world we live in, Tick.
Anyway, we've got Tyson Fury, who's going to box Francis Ngannou, typically a UFC fighter.
Yeah, he's not even a boxer, no?
No, he's not. And he's going up against potentially the greatest boxer of all time. One of them. He's in the annals of greatest boxers. That's up for discussion if he is number one or not, but he's fucking incredible, basically. And I never understand why these guys just jump right to fucking, like when Conor did Floyd Mayweather, like, what are you doing? You're not a boxer.
Payday, Tick. A lot of these guys are getting paid huge money for this.
But there's one thing when it's Floyd Mayweather, because he's a very defensive boxer and then he'll eventually strike on you. Tyson Fury is going to try to put an absolute ass whooping on Francis Ngannou. And Francis Ngannou is a freak,
by the way, he's
of nature.
A beast.
Yes, he is, but he's not a boxer. He's a freak of nature, but he's not. It's like DK Metcalf, another fucking freak of nature. I don't think he wants to box Tyson Fury.
Well, he's not even in the same category as Tyson Fury. But yeah, it's sad the state of affairs that boxing is in nowadays. I mean,
I know
you have a guy like
Clown
that
show.
who's so good. But like, I remember growing up, boxing was awesome. It was like, it went from Mike Tyson to then like Evander Holyfield to like Lennox Lewis to then, like it just graduated, and there was like still like exciting and big pay-per-view events and people were watching. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist now, but like I couldn't count on two hands like a list of professional boxers who are like prominently like well known and like in the line. It's lost so much of its allure, and like I don't know. So now they're doing things like this where they're having guys who are not even like pro boxers trying to fight this guy because they don't have really anybody else who can fight him, who's going to beat him, right? Who was the
Deontay
matchup?
Wilder.
Yeah, and he kicked the shit out of him the last fight. It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I will not be paying. Here's the other thing too. They still charge a shitload of money to watch these fucking events on pay-per-view. And it's like, I don't know, man. I'm good without. Now, I will say, contrary to that, the UFC, this thing is, it has my full attention now, because it is. Well, there was a point in time there for a while where it's like, okay, this is like the thing to watch right now. Let's see how long it lasts for. But there's no signs of this stuff slowing down. And it's wild. When you watch one of these fights, you have a guy dominating for like the first round and a half, and all of a sudden he makes one wrong move, and this guy who's been on defense the whole time gets him in a submission and like wins him. It's unbelievable. Or catches him with one stray left hook. It's like,
Yeah,
it is insane to watch, because you're on the edge of your seat, and it's just like, I don't know. UFC is here to stay, man. It is.
but it's
awesome.
also it's like it plays way more to what the intention of what boxing was. It was like it basically boils down to who can kick the shit out of the other guy. And with boxing, it's pretty much all just hands, and there's some element of excitement to that. But the UFC, man, any way you could beat the shit out of this guy, any martial art you want to use. The only thing you can't do is bite or kick someone in the nuts. That's basically
elbow
all
in
you
the
can
face,
do.
right?
Or, yeah, poke them in the eyes, shit like that. Other than that, use whatever you
grabs.
can to beat the shit out of the other guy. And that is just in and of itself a much more exciting concept. And yeah, you're right. The rise of UFC has absolutely decimated the sport of boxing, and they're on their last leg. And all they can do is throw YouTube influencers, against each other to fucking get tickets, and then have the best of all time fight a freak of nature. That's the only way boxing's making any money right now. And I don't even think that's going to last a whole lot longer. I think another 10 years from now, it's going to be completely gone.
Well, you think about the biggest fights in recent history for boxing. Like for me, the Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor one was one of them, and then you had, obviously before that, you had Floyd versus,
Pacquiao.
What's his name? Pacquiao.
Yep.
But again, that was not that. And that last fight was just like,
well, Pacquiao was so old
defensive.
by the time they got the fight together, which is another thing about boxing, is UFC makes a fight happen immediately. Boxing takes years and years and years to make a fight. Where Pacquiao was a politician back in fucking
in the Philippines,
Vietnam, or the Philippines. Sorry about that. They're close enough together. But yeah, he was a politician. He was old. They missed the prime of that guy.
Yeah, they should have got him like 3-4 years prior. I mean, but to my point, it's like these biggest fights, like, okay, Pacquiao on the side, the McGregor fight, he was a top end UFC guy, and I think they're going after the UFC because they think that like the UFC like enthusiasts and like people who are really captivated by that will be drawn over to see how these guys fare against the best in boxing. Right. And that's just a way to get some more eyes on it. But it's kind of sad, man, because I remember that, growing up in the 90s and, boxing was it.
It was exciting.
And it's just been, it's been flipped. It's been reversed, man. If you watch like the early UFC days, like, bro, it was a joke. They had these guys, they were doing like pride fighting and stuff like they were doing whatever they could. They were getting like 400-pound guys to face like guys who were like slim sticks and see if like this, it was like, they were just doing whatever they could to do something. And you know what? Kudos to Dana White. He found the right formula, the recipe for success, and he's created something that is unbelievable. And boxing's got to figure a way to evolve, man, or it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be gone with the wind sooner than later.
Yep, I agree. All right, moving on real quick. Let's just touch on this. PGA wanted Greg Norman out as LIV CEO. This guy's turned into a bit of a joke. I used to love Greg Norman, but he's sort of
shark.
Yeah, man. But he's sort of become a joke, and now the PGA with this new merger wants him out. Thoughts on that?
Take them both out. Take Monahan while you're with it, and let's just start fresh, man.
Yeah,
just call it a day, man. I mean, what are we doing here? These they're calling for Norman's head. Meanwhile, Monahan's the guy who should be on the chopping block too. These guys are they're puppets, man. I'm gonna say it, they're puppets.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying that, I'm not discrediting what Norman has done in his professional career. He was an amazing golfer, and I'm sure, like, even being able to, like, start and be the face of this live tour, which is, is established itself now and has been big enough that it forced the PGA to merger with them in order to create one league again. So I'm not taking anything away from that, but I just think there's money, man, that is dictating a lot of this shit behind the scenes, and like you need a head figure to call the shots. But at the end of the day, how much power do these guys actually really have, Ticket? I don't know.
Not much.
I think, unfortunately, it's, a lot like, like real life. Like, a lot of the times you have people in positions to be kind of the scapegoat, and unfortunately that's the way it is. But behind closed scenes, who knows who's really making the decisions, like I don't know. I don't know how much control Greg Norman actually has of the live tour. You know what I mean? So that being said, like, I get it, but I don't know, man. I'll tell you this, I wouldn't want that position. I wouldn't want to be a position like him or Monahan or something like that. You have to face so much scrutiny day in, day out. So
it's a lot like Goodell. I mean, Goodell is paid to be the punching bag to take all 100% for all the owners, but he's only doing the bidding of the owners.
How about Gary Bettman? How about David Stern when he was in the league? I mean, these guys,
Adam Silver, they're paid huge.
Now, Adam Silver, I will say, holds himself in a way that a lot of these other guys don't. Like, there's not a lot of, I have a lot of respect for Adam Silver. I don't know, aside from the fact that he looks like he's, cast for the next Men in Black movie, as one of the aliens.
One of the aliens.
As one of the aliens coming down for, how they're disguised as people. Every time I see that guy, I'm like, bro, if Men in Black was a reality, like, if that was, this guy's 100% an alien. Like, there's absolutely no question about it. Adam Silver is from another planet. Like, he's just residing here. He's just taking up space, man. But I do actually have a lot of respect for him. I think he holds himself with class. I think he's well spoken for. Goodell is an absolute clown show. And like some of these guys, but again, they're put in that position. And that's probably, I mean, I'm sure they know when they sign up for the job and the big payday and everything that comes with it, like, there's going to be a lot of shit they got to deal with day in, day out. And that's their role, man. That's what they got to do. They got to fan the flames, put out the fires, sometimes cause some fires, and,
Yeah, they're paid the big bucks to be the punching bag for the owners. And that's really what the job is, that for a lot of these commissioners. And I don't think Monahan is much different, or Norman's much different.
No.
And they're paid a lot of money as well to be expendable. Like, listen, man, when it gets too hot, we'll just get another one and we'll start fresh again. And then that guy will eventually down the line get fucked up, and then we'll get another one again. But the owners are the ones who stay.
Oh,
even though it's them, they're the ones really calling the shots.
The thing with Norman is it's so almost predictable and so like you're so cognizant of it that it's almost a joke. Correct. Like in some of these other leagues, that's the case, but it's kind of like a little bit, it's murky. It's, it's not so clear as it is with Norman just being like the figurehead of a league that's not run by him whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move into the hottest segment in podcasting right now. Who's a problem? Joey D, who's a problem this week?
Let me tell you who's a problem, not just this week, but for many, many weeks. And, I used to actually give this guy a lot more credit than I think I should have. But based on his recent signing, which I think is outrageous, and we're talking NBA here, we're talking Dylan Brooks, who is now newly acquired Houston Rocket, making $68 million over I think it's a 4-year tenure. Let me tell you something about this guy. This guy is giving himself way too much credit. Did you hear what he was saying the other day, Tick, on the he was basically saying, he did an interview, said, I'm in opposing players' heads every single game.
I didn't see that.
And bro, he goes, I know every single night guys are thinking about me, Brooks told The Athletic. It's in their minds before the game even starts. Bro, let me tell you something, okay? I don't think anybody's worried about guarding Dylan Brooks or having Dylan Brooks on you, unless you're LeBron James and you're getting sacked in the nuts in an NBA series in which he was kicked out of the game. This guy comes in wearing jean vests, looking like Stone Cold Steve Austin. I get the mentality of being a dog and like fighting in the game and like scratching and clawing, kind of like guys like, you know, Draymond Green, who I have had an issue with before, or Pat Beverly. I get it. Trying to work hard, outwork your opponent, be the guy to kind of get in their ear, jab at them a little bit. But when you come on the record and you say, I'm in opposing players' heads every single night, slow your roll, man. Like, just like, be happy you got paid what you did, dog, because you're playing alongside Ja Morant, okay? You don't need to score. You just got to be good defensively. I don't have anything against him as a player. I don't like when guys get too big for their britches, and we use that terminology frequently. And this is a guy who's acting like he's in the upper echelon of the NBA, and he really isn't. Oh, but apparently the Rockets seem to think so, to sign him to $68 million. But that's on par for like all of these NBA players who are grossly overpaid, in my opinion, for what they contribute. And we've talked about that before. And hey, good for them. Happy for them. Happy for these guys making what they're making. But like with the NBA, man, the contracts are so outrageous. These guys taking nights off for, what is it? What do they call it? Load management. It's a joke.
I know. Well, you know what's crazy is it feels like everyone's getting crazy contracts on all these teams. It feels like the Houston Rockets are always throwing crazy contracts around, and they're never winning. They're never winning.
Well, this goes back. Remember Steve Francis?
Yeah.
I mean, this goes back in years ago that they've been doing this. Not to a lot of success, by the way. I haven't seen the Rockets win anything for a long time.
They had a few good years with James Harden, but he always fell short too. And
they weren't good since Olajuwon, really. I mean, that's when they were really
They won one with when the season that Jordan was playing baseball. They won.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Since then,
yeah.
But they're all the other guys. Now, I don't think Tracy McGrady was overpaid. I think Tracy McGrady was one of the true superstars of the NBA. But yeah, Steve Francis, they overpaid James Harden. They overpaid. I mean,
John Wall had a nice.
John Wall
had a nice sizable salary.
There's some mouths to feed in Houston, and they're feeding them, man.
I don't know who this owner is, but he's throwing a lot of money around, but he's throwing it all at one fucking guy.
Isn't it? It's what's his name? The owner is it's Fertitta. Tillman Fertitta.
Yeah.
Tillman Fertitta. He's got more money than God, man. He's a billionaire. I've
heard some shit about that. I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it. All right. Interesting. I didn't see that comment, but if he did say that shit, that's a good one.
I just think it's like he's kind of was on the borderline of being a menace, and then he did this shit, these antics in the Lakers series, and physically like hit LeBron James in the nuts. I mean, once you start doing shit
treading
like that,
in Lance Stevenson territory.
Well, no, Draymond Green territory when you start doing
both
shit
those
like
guys.
that. Like, it's just, it's not necessary, man. It's not necessary. And then when you go on record and here's the thing. Here's what I like to think. Even if you are in players' heads every game, what do you gain by going out and saying that? Now all you're doing is you're putting yourself out there for these guys to just want to fucking ball out on you even more. Mm-hmm. Like there's no good that can come from that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
In my eyes, anyways.
All right. I got a problem. I was gonna stick with sports because we are the sportsmen. I was gonna go with Michael Wilbon because he's a chronic name dropper, but there's something that happened this week in the news that really it grinds my gears because it's happened to me personally.
Okay.
These people on flights with the airdropping to random people. I don't know if you gotten a request on a flight from a random airdrop. You don't know who the fuck it is, but it's someone on the plane. It's a little frightening.
I've accidentally pressed accept before and got photos.
Yes, me too. And usually they're like a lot of the stories is it's a lot of dick pics or it's a lot of
I never got that, thankfully.
No, but I've read a lot of that, and I just got a couple messages like, "Hey, how's your flight going?" Pretty innocuous stuff. But there was a flight heading into Hawaii from like I think it was like St. Louis or like Milwaukee or something that had to deplane. They had to land in Oakland, California, delay their trip to Hawaii because someone sent an airdrop to a stewardess that there was a possible that there was a bomb on board. There was a bomb somewhere in the fucking airplane. This is getting out of hand, man.
By the way, let me tell you something right now.
Airdrop.
If I was one of the passengers just bypassing on that plane, I'm throwing a fucking fit. I'm looking for that guy. And I'm ready to throw fisticuffs. Imagine your flight getting delayed and having to drop in another location. Because then how do you get back? How do you got to get a whole new flight now to get to your other location? I mean, that just absolutely derails your entire travel day. What an asshole.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of people are doing that. So that's the extreme version.
Did they find the person who did this shit?
I don't think so. I don't think they know yet. But I gotta say, Apple's got to take a little responsibility for this too. The airdrop is basically like just harassing people. Anyone you want, you just send an airdrop to any fucking phone. You can see everyone around you, and you can just. Oh, I'm gonna pick that person and send a photo.
Well,
to
it should be someone.
Enough.
I put a thing. It's like contacts only. So that it only shows up for that. But there should be a thing that if you're trying to send an airdrop, that there's like a pinned code or something that comes with it that person needs to input so that they're not receiving something that's not supposed to be for them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
the airdrop is. I use it with Nicole a lot. It's so much better than sending for example, videos and photos and stuff. You send it through text. Sometimes they get the text when it comes through, the video will be blurred or some kind of
I agree.
There'll be some kind of shit that happens to it. Whereas if you airdrop it, it's literally like that person's handing the video to you from their phone into yours. The quality is better.
Yeah,
it's not blurred or just impaired in any way. So I do use it, but yes, I didn't hear this story. That is ridiculous. Outrageous.
It's gotten out of hand. And leading up to this too, I was going to leave it alone, but people are sending dick pics around too. I've seen that plenty of times. Allie's gotten a few of those. My girlfriend's gotten a few of those.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's and I've heard other
that's
people
borderline sexual assault.
Yeah, but it's it's a problem, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. Either Apple's got to
calling it out. You know what, Sportsmen? We called out the NBA. Now we're calling out Apple. There's no holds bar.
This takes nothing away from Michael Wilbon. He's still a problem too. He's got to cut it out. But the airdrop thing is really grinding my gears right now. All right. Let's move on to some viewer questions and get out of here. We got a couple this week. We got one from Evan. Sort of the same sort of type of question here. Evan asks, favorite teams aside, what are your top 3 favorite sports logos?
Oh, damn. That's good.
That is a good one.
That's a great question. I'm going to give 3, and then I'm going to give a couple like honorable mentions because there's a few really good ones out there. All right. I'll go like 3 to 1. Okay. To start off. At number 3, I'll go the Seattle Mariners. I think the logo is clean.
Yeah.
You have like the compass in there with it. Just looks. It looks like a seaside, like a marine logo. I think it's so on point. I think it's awesome. It's fresh. It looks good. The color scheme is awesome. I'll pick that at number 3. At number 2, a team that has stunk for years in the NFL. But an unbelievable logo. Give me the Jacksonville Jaguars logo at number 2. That is pretty fucking cool. The Jaguar looks great. I love that teal that they have in the color, even for the jerseys. And then number 1, I guess I do really like teal. I'm gonna stick with that color. I'm gonna go the San Jose Sharks. I thought when they first came out as an expansion team when I was a kid that the logo was awesome, and they altered it a little bit a few years ago. They changed it, and it's still awesome. It's still so cool. I'll do 3 honorable mentions just of jerseys, not necessarily teams that are still in the league. The Vancouver Grizzlies was a sick logo. The Hartford Whalers, low
Now
key,
that is
one
sick.
of the sickest logos.
Yes.
And I didn't even realize up until like a few years ago, the Carolina Hurricanes did a throwback and wore the Hartford Whalers. I didn't realize. I always just thought it was the fin of the whale. I didn't realize when you look closely, it actually has an H and a W in it, which is, you have to look really closely. It is such an unbelievable logo to me that it's like, man, I love that logo so much. So the Hartford Whalers, Vancouver Grizzlies, and then I don't know, man. There's some good ones. I used to really like the old school Anaheim Ducks, like the ones with the actual duck, like the goalie mask on it. I thought that was super sick. They changed that, unfortunately. And then, I'll go with those. There's a few out there though, man, that are pretty clean. Just off the top of my head, that's what I can think of. I'm sure I'll go back later and realize, like, damn, there's probably some more. I'd like to hear in the comments like what people like, because there's some really cool logos. Like even the Raptors logo has been pretty cool. What are yours?
Yeah, we're gonna miss a ton for sure.
I know. It's hard on the top of your head just to think.
I know. And you know what? I had probably more time to think about it, but I didn't really. So it's off the top of my head. I really do like the Minnesota Wild. I love first of all, I love that forest green. When they wear the forest green jerseys, I love that. But it's like, it's just
like
some
a
sort
silhouette of like the trees and like then the wild, like
it's like a panther or something. It's some sort of like bobcat or something.
Yeah.
But you're right. Inside the face, it's like there's trees in it, and it's
a forest, like a moon, and like
it's fucking dope, is what it is. It's fucking sick.
It's pretty cool.
I also like the Buffalo Bills. I like that bill running with the line behind it, and or that streak through it. And also, not to mention, when the Bob the Sports Crew went to Buffalo for something a long time ago, they've got this merch store there with all the vintage Buffalo Bills stuff, and it is some of the coolest merch. If you get vintage Buffalo Bills stuff, it is some of the coolest. It's up there to me with the Hartford Whalers stuff. I love that. I was going to say the Hartford Whalers, but you already said it. I don't want to say that. I'll go with, I also like the Arizona Diamondbacks. I also really like the Diamondbacks, especially the old logo with the fucking snake in it, and it's got the baseball between its fangs. Really fucking dope.
They've kind of toggled between that and then just the giant A.
They got the big A too, and it's just got cool colors in it. But I like the old one with the fucking the Diamondback snake in it. But yeah, there's got to be a shitload more. I feel like hockey's
the hockey's got cool ones. The Nashville Predators was a cool one. You remember, I like some of these old ones that kind of went up. Remember the Quebec Nordiques?
The Nordiques had cool sick ones. Yes,
they had like the Fleur de oh my god, what's the thing called? I'm gonna forget now. It's like the French monarchy logo.
But wasn't it also a hockey stick too?
Yeah, it was. I'm gonna try to pull it up here. The Nordiques. Also, too, the Minnesota North Stars used to have a cool logo.
I don't know that one.
This logo right here. This is the North Stars old logo. That's
not bad.
Dope.
It's not bad. Throw up the Nordiques though.
Okay,
because that one's sick.
Oh yeah, it's hold on. I want to get an explanation of what. Yeah, this is pretty sick, dog. That logo is it's clean, man. It's just it's clean, man.
I don't even know what I'm looking at. It's just dope. It's just
that's the actual. So that's like the fleur de what is it called? A fucking fleur de something. It's used in French like royalty. It's like the monarch that they use. And then I think actually there's a thing.
Well, the thing on the bottom is that's the New Orleans Saints logo. That's which is also
so What is the okay? The primary Nordiques logo is a red hockey stick with the blue puck sitting on top, leaning on a blue bordered red end. These elements combine to form an igloo. So it's supposed to look like an igloo, which is sick.
Got it. Got it.
See? That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
man.
I like that. It's just a cool little.
Hockey's got cool logos, man.
Yeah,
The NFL has some okay.
The Avalanche, pretty dope too. You know which one I don't understand? It's my favorite hockey team. It's the Flyers. I don't understand necessarily what I'm looking at. I don't understand.
It's a flying P.
Yeah, but it's also like it's supposed to be like a hockey puck, maybe, and we're the Flyers because we fly the puck. I love the team, and the logo's okay, but I just don't necessarily know. And what's with the orange dot? I don't understand. Did hockey?
The key concept of the logo and the team's name was to represent the speed, as hockey is a high-speed game. The logo contained 4 stylized wings attached to a slanted P, which of course stood for Philadelphia, with an orange dot to symbolize a puck.
Okay, so did pucks used to have an orange dot in the center?
No, I just think that they put it's an orange puck in the middle of the flying P.
I think it's a bit of a mess, to be honest with you. I love the
just
team,
gave it
but I think it's a bit of a mess. I don't love what we got going on in Philadelphia as far as our hockey team logo.
You know what is also a sick logo was the original Canucks logo with the skate.
Yeah, that's sick.
Inside of a puck.
Why don't you guys have that anymore?
I don't know. We went to some stupid freaking.
Yeah, it sinks now.
I'm not going to say anything that's going to get the Sportsman canceled. But they went with a stupid whale instead of. How cool is this? And you know what our logo was before that? It was the Johnny Canuck.
What the fuck is a Johnny Canuck?
So the Canucks, Johnny Canuck is known as is like Canuck is a reference to a Canadian.
Yeah, right.
Look at this. Hold on, Tick. I'm going to show you how cool.
Is it like John Doe in America, or like
Johnny Canuck? He's like symbolizes like what it means to be Canadian.
Oh, like Uncle Sam. Like he's like our Uncle Sam.
Yeah. Look at this. Ready for this? Look how cool this logo is.
Canuck.
And now we're stuck with the stupid whale. Look at how cool that logo is.
Yeah, Johnny Canuck's not bad. I do like that. You had a lot of really good old logos. The one you have now stinks. It does. It really does stink. It stinks.
You know, okay, give me your worst logo of all time.
Might be what you have now, honestly.
That's outrageous. It's not the worst. I'll give you mine.
The worst logo. Okay.
I have 2.
Sure. Hit us.
I'll give one, and then I'll see if you use the other one. My first one is the Cleveland Browns. It's literally
that's great.
An orange. It's like what are we? It's not even like you're called the Browns and your logo's not even brown. It's orange.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
They don't even have anything on the helmets. Like now, I will say they have like a side logo that they use as a barking dog, which is actually cool, but that's not their logo. It's terrible, man.
You know who I think stinks? Is the New York Giants.
That's a terrible logo. It's literally a logo.
It's terrible. It's awful. It's awful. I mean, it's sort of a throwback to like old school, just like no fuss.
This
would
be a cool logo. This is like their side thing, but why don't they do that? You don't like the Giants?
The New York Giants, there's no reference to the city. There's no like skyline background. There's no giant. There's no sort of mascot who is a giant. It's just NYG. There's nothing to it. It's lame. It's lazy, and it's just I can't stand it. Who's your other one?
And well, they're no longer. It was you. They're now called the Commanders, but it was the Washington football team. That has to be the worst logo of all time.
They were transitioning. They didn't know what they were doing. It was a rough period for Dan Snyder.
They couldn't come up with something other than Washington football team.
Well, I think they were trying to do the soccer thing, like football club.
What are we doing here?
It looks like they went into back in the Madden games when you could create your own team and your own logo, but they were all. It
literally looks like some 15-year-old on his Xbox sent it in to the Washington Football Club I was like, I got a great idea for the team logo. Let's just call it the Washington football team and put a
Yeah.
W in the middle.
Yeah, it's
What
true.
a
It sucks.
garbage, what a
It sucks.
garbage logo.
All right. Next question comes from Jonah.
That was a great question, by the way. Kudos to whoever
Evan.
asked that.
It's a great question by Evan. Jonah asks a question sort of in the same vein here. What's your top 3 athletes of all time?
Oh man. All right. I these are hard on the spot.
I don't think it's like the best, by the way. I don't think you need to say like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. I think it's just your favorite top 3.
I'm gonna go with, like, as a kid growing up, my favorite players that have kind of resonated with me. In hockey, I'm gonna go a goalie who I thought, to me, was the best goalie of all time, and someone I loved watching him play. I modeled my game around him. I was, not to say that I would ever be even remotely good like he is, but Patrick Waugh, to me, is definitely one of my favorite all-time hockey players. The guy was gritty. He wouldn't back down from anyone. He revolutionized the butterfly. The guy was unbelievable. And he basically left the Montreal Canadiens and told them to go fuck themselves, and went straight to the Colorado Avalanche as a new team and won a Stanley. I think he won two? He won two. I think he won 2 Stanley Cups. The guy was amazing. So I'll go with him. Next, I'll go with, I got to go Michael Jordan. I know that he's the GOAT of athletes, but like, I was of the age that I actually grew up watching this guy play basketball. I watched this, the championship series against the Sonics. I still remember, against, Gary Payton.
The glove. Yeah.
Gary Payton. And then what was the guy's name? The center who they had, who had like a million wives, Sean Kemp.
Yeah.
Sean Kemp was, but I still remember Jordan was so electrifying to watch. And you always thought that, like, no matter what, he was going to always like come out on top and win. So we'll go with him. And then for football, I don't want to do it. Okay, keep in mind, this is growing up. Okay, now I don't know now if you'd still be, I guess I'm kind of sideswiping the question. It's tough. I want to say Brett Favre so bad, but knowing how much of
Brett Favre.
I got to say Brett Favre. Growing up, we used to go, my mom's from Green Bay. So in the off season, in summertime, we'd always visit Green Bay, and we'd go there for periods of time, and we would ride our bikes to the practice facility. And then what would happen is the players would finish practice and they'd get on your bike and they would ride you over to Lambeau Field, give you their jersey or sign or whatever. And it was the coolest thing ever. You just hang on and like ride with the players. And Brett Favre was such a star at the time that they built like an underground tunnel. So he would just walk out because they didn't want anybody to like harass him when he was coming out of the stadium. But to me, I thought he was his nickname was the Gunslinger. I just thought he was the coolest thing ever. So I'll go with those 3 guys.
All right, I'll start off with one that's fairly obvious and end with one that's probably going to throw you for a bit of a loop. Allen Iverson, for me, was just the most impressive player, maybe even still to this day, that I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes. I still will stand by, I think that pound for pound, he's the most talented basketball player who's ever played the game. He was so small as a basketball player, and what he could fucking do on the court, the way he could break your ankles, the way he could score from anywhere on the court on a nightly basis. And not to mention, those Sixers teams stunk. And he got them either far in the playoffs or to the finals almost every year that he was there.
That's a sad thing too, Tick, about the NBA, is that like nowadays, as one of the elite players, you can just say, I want to go to a different team. Like, look what Lillard's about to do now.
Correct.
And you get put on a team and win a championship. And
well, to Lillard's credit, he stayed as long as he could.
I understand that, but I'm saying the NBA now, you could pretty much do this Kevin Durant bullshit and go wherever you want and win championships. And I would have loved to see Iverson win a championship. Like, and he never had he got them to their on his.
We were lazy. We didn't spend any money. We thought we had our guy.
Eric Snow was like your second best player back then.
Yeah. And you know what? It was just
Aaron McKee was.
Yeah, Aaron McKee was. Yeah, he was probably our second best player. But Anyway, he was just, I still think he's just, for his size, was the greatest player of all time. I mean, he was just incredible. So fun having him in Philly. He really brought that city to life in a time where the city was not doing very well. Okay, so there's him. The next is Pudge Rodriguez, Ivan Rodriguez. He's a catcher. He's a Hall of Famer, Joseph. He played for the Texas Rangers, but I got to know him very well when he was traded to the Detroit Tigers, and he was a longtime Tiger. And he was just one of the best catchers of all time. This guy hit for average, he hit for power, and he had one of the best guns and pop-up times.
Is there a reason why you resonated well with catchers? You weren't a catcher, you were an outfielder.
Well, when I first started, well, I played shortstop, but when I first started playing, I started at the catcher position, and that's sort of when I was watching him, and I think I just sort of like really resonated with him. But he was also the Tigers stunk forever, and he was like their first player that they got, other than Kenny Rogers, who was a great pitcher, who they were trying. Like, he brought excitement back to that organization. And my family really loved the Detroit teams, but the Tigers specifically. And he was a lot of fun to watch. He made that team fun to watch. And then last, this one's going to throw you for a loop. Just guys who I loved watching as a kid, the most exciting players. I was so excited to watch this guy play when he was on TV, if he was the game of the week in football. And I loved this team back then too. I loved the colors. San Diego Chargers, LaDainian Tomlinson, man.
I mean, he was unbelievable.
If you got an opportunity to watch LD, man, it was so
He was putting up like 2 touchdowns minimum a game that one year. He was like, it was like he was running through teams. It was him, and then Darren Sproles came a little bit later.
Darren Sproles was nowhere near as good. Oh, you mean they were on the same team?
No, I mean they were on the same team.
Yes, they were two-headed monster.
I'm saying it was wild because they take LaDainian Tomlinson out, they put this little pipsqueak in, and then he do something. Like, those offensive teams were so freaking good. Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, Phil Rivers. He couldn't make anything happen with that team.
And then one of the best tight ends of all time was
Antonio
Gates.
Yeah.
Who was their wide receiver for years? Was it Keenan McCardle, or was it
who was that guy out there? That's a great question. They did have a guy who was you're going to say it and it's going to piss me off. But and they also had fucking the guy who played linebacker who ended up going Junior Seau. You know, it was a fun team to watch. But LaDainian Tomlinson, to me, back then, when running back still meant something, was just so fun to watch. He was breaking people's ankles. He was ripping through tackles for a smaller back, and he was just so fucking fast. His 0 to 60 time was unbelievable. So that's probably my top 3 of just like exciting players I was excited to watch when I was growing up.
So would you say, like, if you had to pick a team that you had no affiliation, they were your home team, no affiliation to, just a team that you had to watch game in, game out, would it be the Chargers?
Yeah, I just love their colors as a kid. And if I ever created a team in Madden, I always gave them the Chargers colors. And they had LD, and I just loved them. Yeah. It was so fun to watch. So yeah, it was probably the Chargers.
You know what mine would be? And it's not NFL.
Is it
I'll give you one for the NBA.
Okay.
You know who I used to love watching, especially like come playoff time?
Yeah.
Because they had just such an electric building, and like all the games would be so exciting. You would never in a million years guess this.
The Pistons.
No. The Sacramento Kings.
Oh, wow.
I loved watching them. They had Vlade Divac, they had Chris Webber, they had Bobby, what's his name, the short guy. Oh my god,
I don't know.
It's gonna drive me nuts.
Was it before Mike Bibby? Was it before him?
Yeah, it was when they had White Chocolate, when they had Jason Williams.
Yeah, Jason Williams.
Which was unbelievably. Then they had Peja Stojakovic.
3-point.
They had some guys. Yeah, dude. They I gotta get this name of this one guy. It's gonna drive me nuts. Hold on here.
Bobby Lee.
No. Jason Williams, Chris Webber, Hidu Turkoglu.
Oh, Turkoglu. Yeah.
Stojakovic. Bobby Jackson was the guy I'm thinking about.
I remember him so much.
Doug Christie, Vlade Divac, Dude, that team was
Yeah,
so
dude.
electrifying.
Turkaloo. Wow, that's a blast from the past, man.
Dude, they
Holy
were
shit.
so fun to watch because you had all these like European like marksmen who could like fire threes. And then if you tried to guard them on the perimeter, they'd just go down low to Chris Webber, who was like a fucking like an assassin. And then you had Jason Williams like throwing the ball behind his back and through his legs to like a guy on the other side. I mean, it was just a fun team to watch. Never cheered for them again after that, but
yeah, the Sixers had Chris Webber for a minute. And that was a
they
decent
did.
team that we had, but he was sort of not the same
You
guy
always
by
get
then.
guys past their prime, man.
Always, always.
Unless it's Jimmy Butler.
That's
you got
true.
him somehow in his prime, but not.
And then we immediately, as quickly as we possibly could,
got rid of him.
Couldn't get rid of him faster, to be honest.
But have fun with what's his name?
Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris.
Yeah, what a fucking all-time
useless
mistake.
A useless tit that guy is.
He sucks.
He's an absolute useless.
All right.
Low key, a pretty fire episode considering we had nothing to talk about.
There was zero to talk about, and we made something happen for over an hour here. But that's just what we do here at the Sportsman. Okay, no Mikey V, we still make it happen.
We keep it rolling.
He'll be back next week. A good episode here, Joey D. That's another edition of the Sportsman. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube and the Instagram. Fire your questions in the Instagram. Mr. Anderson will rifle through those, and he will send them to us, and they will answer them on the show. But that's another good one, man. We are the Sportsman. That's Joey D. I'm the Big Ticket, and we will see you next week.